A man crosses your line, accuses you of something that you didn't even do, right? Flips out when you don't text back fast enough, checks who you follow, watches how you dress, asks where you were for the 10th time that day. And when you call it out, suddenly he's the scared one, right? He's sensitive. He's just insecure. He just cares so much. And you want to believe him because, hello, you're human. You've been insecure before. Everyone has. Of course, you can understand how it feels when your stomach drops or like your mind just spins, your nervous system is in a panic because you like someone. Women know that feeling. We feel it too. So when a man looks you in the eye and he says, I only act like this because I'm afraid of losing you, you take it seriously. You think he's being honest. Maybe you even think it's vulnerable. I once got to talk with Dr. Kristen Milstead about how his vulnerability encourages you to see him as safe, even when he's not. But there's a line where insecurity stops actually being insecurity and starts being control. And I want more women to see this. Now, a lot of women don't see that line until they're deep in it. And an abusive man, he knows that. He knows that you'll make room for his fear. You'll soothe him. They know that you'll try harder because you don't want to hurt him. That's the hook. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a toxic and abusive relationship expert. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse and assault, and I spent a decade with an abuser. And I'm telling you, I wish someone had said this to me early. If you've been with a man like this, or you currently are, subscribe because this is for you. I talk about men's abuse of women, and I expose their tactics here. You need to know what insecurity looks like in a healthy person before we even get into their little tricky tactics. And I'm going to cover some really covert ones that you may not have noticed. So stick around to the end. Insecurity, it's a feeling, right? It's not a weapon. So when a secure or anxious person feels insecure, they tell you honestly. They might say, listen, I'm having a moment and I hate that my brain does this. Can you help me feel grounded? Can you reassure me? They don't blame you. They don't accuse you. They sit with the feeling. They go to therapy. They might use CBT, right? Like checking the thought against facts. They might use DBT and regulate before they actually talk. They don't dump it on you. They take responsibility for the part that belongs to them. Real insecurity is uncomfortable. Yeah, it makes people look inward. A healthy man will ask himself, what is coming up for me? What do I need to work on? That's what accountability looks like, right? That's what humanity looks like. But abusive men, they don't do that. And that's what we're talking about here. He's not going to look inward. He looks at you. You're the problem. You become the reason that he feels like anything is happening that he just doesn't like. His so-called insecurity, it becomes the exact thing that he uses to get you to change your behavior. Suddenly you're managing his emotions, right? You're doing it so that he doesn't explode. You don't want him to get mad, so you're the one explaining, walking on eggshells, feeling like a little child hiding something from a parent when you have literally done nothing wrong. A healthy, insecure person asks for reassurance. An abusive man, he demands access, right? He wants your passwords, location, your phone, your friggin' friends list, your whole history. And a guy like this, he calls it transparency or honesty or worry. He acts like he's suffering, right? But his behavior has not one damn thing to do with connection. It's really all about control. Now, something that I see really often here, attachment theory gets dragged into this constantly. Women tell me all the time, oh, I think he's just got an anxious attachment. No. Anxious attachment doesn't cause abuse. Avoidant attachment also doesn't cause abuse. No attachment style causes abuse. Abuse is a choice. It's based on beliefs and entitlement. Dr. George Simon talks about this in his work on character disturbance. It's a fabulous book. It's called Character Disturbance. And I've had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Dr. Simon on my channel. And in fact, he's a guest speaker inside my online community in January 2026. The community is called She Rises Collective. You can join in my profile if you want to see that interview. Anyway, abusive men, they don't struggle with guilt the same way that victims think that they do. They struggle with losing power. And this is always about power and control, right? It's the age-old song. A man might be anxious and still be kind. A man might be avoidant and still respect you. They might be imperfect, but they don't crush you or punish you. They don't interrogate you, isolate, or flip out every time you have a boundary. They don't make you pay for their discomfort. So when a man acts controlling and then he blames insecurity, he's not talking about fear of losing you. He's talking about fear of losing control. And that's the difference that women feel in their bodies. You feel it, right? Maybe you can't name it, and maybe I'm naming it right now for you. Your nervous system knows the difference even when your brain doesn't. So with an insecure man, maybe you feel closer after a conversation like this, but with an abusive man, you feel smaller and probably more confused. There's another sneaky version of this that women don't catch at first, and honestly, I wonder if it might be the one that kind of traps the most women. It's when he doesn't call himself insecure at all, right? He calls himself protective. That's the worst kind, because men are not natural protectors, but they pretend to be. He takes whatever fear he has and he turns it into something that sounds kind of noble, right? I just want to keep you safe. I know how men are. It worries me when you go out that late. I just want you to be safe. I don't trust the guys that you work with, right? They're the problem. Do you see what he's doing? He's selling you control as concern. Are you buying it? He's acting like he's just protecting you from danger, but he's actually tightening his grip around the control he has in your life. There's insecurity underneath it, but he's not going to show you that part. He just positions himself as the one who sees the world clearly. He knows what's best, but the pattern is identical. He limits your choices, and you tell yourself that you're being cared for. That's how women start handing over pieces of their freedom, and they don't even know they're doing it. Now, let's talk about projection for a second, because I'm telling you, I hear this all the time. This is the most common thing that people say. If he's accusing you, that he must be doing it himself. But this is where a lot of women fall into this BS, right? He accuses you of cheating or flirting or lying or hiding or disrespecting him or not acting like someone in a real relationship. And that can come from two different places, okay? Fear or manipulation. Fear is when someone genuinely doesn't know what to do with their discomfort. Manipulation is when someone knows exactly how to flip the power. Abusive men know. They know exactly what's going on here. The accusation puts you on the defense, right where they friggin' want you. They know that you'll try to prove your loyalty. They know that you'll get scared of being misunderstood and you're going to work harder to be good. That's why his accusations always come whenever he senses you pulling away. Literally picture this. It is like a leash for a damn dog. You try to leave emotionally and he yanks it. Why are you being weird? Who were you really with? I don't feel like you care about me anymore, right? Other women don't act like this. They start triangulating you. He isn't unsure. He's policing you. And I know because sometimes, I don't know, it can feel flattering, right? When a man claims that he's terrified of losing you, especially early on, right? You think it means that you matter to him, that he sees you as something rare, right? Real love doesn't need ownership to feel safe. That's crazy. Real connection doesn't need control to feel stable. Abusive men are not afraid of losing you. They're afraid of losing access to what you give them. Validation and attention, emotional labor, sex, status, loyalty, caretaking. The list is endless. Losing that hits their ego, not their heart. You know that his insecurity is really control by how he responds to you having needs. If you're sad, he calls you dramatic. If you're jealous, maybe he says you're crazy. He gets defensive if you're uncomfortable, right? If you need reassurance, he's going to withhold it. He wants all the emotional support, but he gives none. That double standard tells the absolute truth. Real insecure people have empathy for the insecurity of others. Abusive men don't. Now, women also stay because they're conditioned to believe that a man's fear is their responsibility, right? So if he cries or he's shaking or he says that he's scared or that he's been abandoned before, something kind of clicks in you, right? Your fawn response just wakes up. And I see this in IFS work all the time, right? Internal family systems. Your protector parts rush in. You soothe the child in him, even though he's a grown man hurting you on purpose. They prey on women who value loyalty. He knows exactly what he's doing. And even if he doesn't consciously know, which most do, but not all, he still benefits. He gets the compliance and the access that he wants, that he demands. And abusive men, they don't really receive feedback about this, do they, right? They don't reflect or slow down or take it seriously. They don't ask questions. What do? They deflect. They get angry. They turn cold. You can explain this dynamic as calmly as you want, but the result is always going to be the same. He won't hear it because he doesn't think he's wrong. He thinks you're the problem. And you end up defending yourself or changing your behavior to accommodate him. Make no mistake. Women develop real insecurity in these kinds of relationships, right? Your anxiety spikes. You have no self-trust anymore. Your fear just becomes normal. That's how you live, right? You're the one suffering. You're trying to fix everything. Classic role that women get put into. Meanwhile, he's using his insecurity as some kind of shield to avoid any accountability, because abusive men and accountability, they don't mix, do they? There's this idea that if you understand him enough, like if you dig deep enough into his story and his trauma, if you get the right angle, you'll finally see that soft part of him that explains the way that he treats you, right? That's hope talking. That's cognitive dissonance, because you're trying to make sense of chaos. And women do this because they want to feel safe, right? You want the story to be fixable. So much of this is unconscious. So don't feel like you have any self-blame here. There's nothing to fix if he doesn't see a problem, and he doesn't see a problem with his own behavior. Abusive men never see the problem as themselves. They see the problem as you reacting to it, right? Your boundaries are disrespect to him. Your expectations, they just put pressure on him, so that's your fault. Your independence is a threat to a controlling man. Your emotional needs are such a burden, right? Some abusive men, they enjoy the chase of your reassurance, right? They want to love watching you twist yourself into knots. They enjoy seeing your devotion. It confirms their importance, especially if we're talking about the narcissistic brand. All of this just confirms that you're hooked. Now, I remember, and I swear, I hope I never forget this because it was insane to watch, the Jonah Hill and Sarah Brady texts. When those surfaced back in 2023, there was this big social debate about his behavior, right? He kept framing it as insecurity, basically, but it was control. It's just my boundaries. And tons of people, men and women both, they defended his coercive control behavior. The whole thing kicked off because she shared screenshots of him using boundaries language to control her clothing, her friends, her work as a surfer, and even her social media, which is exactly what abusive men do when they want control, but they don't want the label. They never want to be labeled this, right? The behavior is fine, but they don't want to be called exactly what they are. People saw Jonah Hill as insecure, and they saw it as her job to change herself to accommodate his insecurity. In fact, right? When a healthy man is insecure, he calms down when you reassure him. But when an abusive man is insecure, that reassurance never lands. He just wants more and more and more. And you can't give enough because he doesn't actually want reassurance. That's the point. He wants control. This is so obvious once you see it. Now, researchers like Lundy Bancroft, right? He's written about this for decades. Abusive men don't need insight, they need dominance. So when you believe that he's insecure, you lower your guard. You explain away what should never be explained away. The moment you feel yourself shrinking, that's your sign, right? When you feel like you can't breathe without checking in with him first, when you're scared to say the wrong thing, if you feel guilty for having a life outside him, it gets you, right? His emotions run your day. None of that is insecurity. It is quite literally domination. And trust me when I tell you, I understand why I get so many hate comments from men. I'm telling you the psychology behind what abusive men do, and they hate it. So where do you go from here, right? You get honest with yourself. You ask questions that don't let him off the hook. What does his behavior actually cost you? What do you lose every single time you choose to soothe him? You hiding in the bathroom, texting your sister because you don't want him to accuse you of texting another man? You know what's wild about situations like that is that I have clients who literally say, look at my phone. Look, I'm just texting my sister. You're telling him, look, I'll prove it to you. And the dude refuses to even look. Yeah, because he just wanted you to offer. He knows that you're not texting another man, but he definitely wanted you to demonstrate your willingness to show him your loyalty so he knows that he can make you defend yourself. He says jump, you say how high. What happens in your body when he gets upset? What do you tell yourself to make it seem okay? Those questions get you out of this fog that we're always in. You don't need to diagnose him. You don't need to analyze trauma. You don't need to guess his friggin' attachment style or even understand it. You don't have to mother this grown man so that he can get through emotions that he refuses to take accountability for. You only need to notice the pattern. His feelings become your job and his control becomes your normal. Listen, you deserve more than babysitting a grown man's ego. You deserve someone who can hold his own feelings without using them to manage yours. You deserve someone who sees you as a partner, not a possession. And if you're watching this and you're realizing how much you have normalized, that's the moment that things can start to shift. So hold on to this. In fact, save this video, watch it again. You're not imagining this. Maybe you're waking up. Now, if you want help getting through this, you can book a private session with me. I help women break this cycle and rebuild their confidence and self-trust after abusive and toxic relationships. And subscribe, because the more you see this pattern, the easier it becomes to get free.